Hello everyone, my name is Austin, and hey, welcome to my review of Pokemon Sword and Shield. More specifically, Pokemon Sword. Yes, I am late to the party. It's been 5 years, literally, since this game came out, and I'm finally getting the chance to review the game. And, PSA, right, before anyone's wondering where the hell I've been for the past week or so, it's been playing this game. Yeah. After this review, I'll probably go on and, do some more gotcha news, gotcha trivia, and my other shows, and so on. But for this video, we will talk about Pokemon Sword. It's surprisingly fun, but also expectedly, what is it? What's the nice way of putting it? It's also expectedly not creative in other areas. So let's begin. So let's talk about the main thing here, and that is the Pokemon gameplay loop. Now, the Pokemon gameplay loop of like battling, fighting, this and that, it's kind of always been the same. And in Sword and Shield, it just feels the same, right? And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed at all. Like it's the same Pokemon battling you've ever done, right? It's the same thing. It's just the same thing. But it's not a bad thing, right? Like, you know what they say. You know what they say. Don't, fix something that isn't broken, right? Don't fix something that isn't broken. And that's kind of the formula that Pokemon has been going on with for, like, fucking generations now, literally. It's been 20 years, right? 20, 30 years since the first games came out. And Sword and Shield, they follow this exact philosophy. They, down to the T, they follow this exact philosophy. And, I think the real issue, though, right, the real issue that people have with this game, and the reason why it is one of the most notorious, controversial games that Game Freak has released in the past couple of years, and it's one of the more recent titles, of course, and it's one of the reasons why it's so controversial is because of the fact that it is one of the very first Pokemon games that ever released on Switch. That and like Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee. And, I'm not sure what the reception about Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee are, but I assume people like that one. And if people hated on that one, it's not as bad as how much people hated this generation, right? At least the Gen 1 remakes, I never heard anything about, but Pokemon Sword and Shield, I mean, I'm not part of the Pokemon fandom, right? I'm not part of the Pokemon fandom. I watch normal YouTubers like fucking Moist Critical, Penguin Z0, Charlie, you know what I mean? And he was reviewing like this game like shit, like this game is so bad, this game is so boring, blah 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 blah. I hate this part, blah 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 blah. And he's my favorite YouTuber, right? He's my favorite YouTuber. And he was talking about this game, and I was like, damn, I already have a bad impression of this game. But 5 years later, here we go. We're playing the game because you know what? I'm just itching to play a Pokemon Switch game, and why not start with Sword and Shield, right? I touched Legends Arceus, and I touched Brilliant Diamond, which I did not review. I did not review that one, but I did review the Legends Arceus one. So I've played 3 Switch games, and this is my third one. So my third Pokemon Switch game, and for the most part, it's fun. It's fun. But I can see why people criticize it, right? I can see why. Because, like, if you've ever played any, like, the 3DS games, it just feels like a 3DS game. It looks like a 3DS game. I think that's the reason why people shit on it so bad. Like, Scarlet Violet, people really didn't like it, but that was for, like, technical issues, right? Technical issues. Arceus, technical issues. And also, it was a bit barren. But it was innovative and people forgave it. And, Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu. It was a remake, so people didn't give a shit. And I think the whole catching mechanic was much different. So people also gave it a pass. But this game people really disliked. And I can see why, because it just feels like a 3DS game. Like, it's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. But compared to the rest of the Pokemon lineup, it does look pretty bad, yeah. Like, it's on its own, it's a fun, outstanding game. Fun and outstanding game. And the gameplay loop speaks for itself, right? This is like 30 years of Pokemon making. It just clicks, it just works, and it just does it. The issue I think people have with Pokemon Sword and Shield is the fact that it just feels like every other Pokemon game, especially, you know, what is it? Especially the previous titles, right? Like, if people are, I hate this Pokemon Switch game. It's just like the other Switch game. People don't care as much. But, what's the big issue, right? The big issue is like, this Switch game feels like last generation on a different goddamn device. Then people just get upset, and rightfully so. But that being said, I find it fun. Honestly, it's fun. The gameplay loop is fun. The story was something else. I really enjoyed the story. Going back to negative first impressions, right? Negative first impressions. I know, like, for example, let's use Most Critical Charlie, for example, right? Charlie from Frequency Zero. He talks about, for example, Team Yell not being as cool as, like, some other teams. So, spoiler alert, Team Yell isn't really evil, and they're just, funny, goofy characters, as they should be, you know what I mean? And there's actually an evil villain in this game, and, don't worry about Pokemon not having villains anymore. They still do. It just so happens that there are spoilers, right? There are, certain things. And Team Yell isn't, like the whole, like, evil team aspect, right? It gets, like, what is it? It gets reversed on its head. That's the correct word for it. For once, there isn't an evil team, right? For once, there isn't an evil team. And people really gave shit for that, right? People really gave shit about that. And I'm like, you know what? You're complaining that Pokemon isn't, like, changing and mixing it up a little bit, but that's kind of cool, actually. That for once you're not battling, like the evil team isn't evil, and there's a true evil guy or true evil woman or true evil whatever, right? Other group that isn't the evil team, right? Like, so I think that's cool. I think that's really cool, and I'm not gonna spoil any more than that. But yeah, like, for the most part, I think the the evil team being the main bad guys. For once, it's not a bad thing that they're not there, right? They're not supposed to be. And I know I was going on about the evil team thing, but I know that was like one criticism. People were like, they're not as cool as Team Skull or Team Rocket or whatever. Like, you know what? Don't worry about it. It actually fits with the story. And speaking of the story, obviously, let's talk about a rival, right? Or rival, Hop. This guy, it's a very interesting fellow. He's a bit of a mix, I would say, of, like, old gen and new gen rivals, basically. Like, he's got that, like, what is it? He's got that old gen vibe of, like, hey, he's, like, constantly persisting you to attack, right? He's like, please, let's battle. I know some of the, like, other games before Sword and Shield, the rivals were pretty lenient, and you didn't really see them all that often, let's be real here. But Hop is always constantly just biting at your ass and always wanting you to fight him. So, that's like an old rival thing, definitely. But also, the new rival thing is like, before each fight, he'll make sure to heal your Pokemon or give you some time to think about it before challenging him. So that's like some newbie shit. That's like the new generation stuff. And of course, that's not derogatory or whatever. I'm just stating facts, right? old gen versus new gen aspects, and Hop, kind of has both of those ideals, I guess. Both of those ideals. Him as a character, I find really interesting. I really enjoy his character, but spoiler alert, right? Spoiler alert. Please click off the video. Click off the video if you don't want to get spoiled. We beat him so bad that, like, he has, like, depression for, like, a huge chunk of the game. And only until post-game does he truly recover and find his purpose in life. And it's kind of interesting to think about. It's kind of interesting to just... And also kind of, like, weird and sad, almost. I don't know, there's a lot of emotions. Just the way you're just, like, constantly beating his ass. Like, the first couple times you're beating his ass, he's still hype, he's still this and that. And then, like, the middle of the story, right? You're beating his ass, and now he's, like, crying, and, later in the game, right, he's recovering, but he's still self-doubting himself, and he doesn't really have much of a purpose, and you're beating his ass again, and then finally you become champion, and he's going back to depression again, and then you beat his ass again, and then, oh my god, he feels better, and he found his purpose in life. We're still in spoilers, by the way, we're still in spoilers. Our rival, he wanted to be champion, and now we beat him so bad that he just wants to become a Pokemon professor instead. So, yeah. That being said, he still considered us as a rival, and so that's pretty cool. But, come on, man. Come on, Hop. You can still go after my title. Like, you can still come after me. You know what I mean? Pokemon champ. Because, like, that's like, the one thing, right? But, like, lore and story-wise, is that, like, Pokemon champions, they're not champions forever. They constantly have to fight for their title. But once the MC shows up of, like, that particular game, it feels like, we're done with Pokemon forever. We're done with ever having a new Pokemon champion ever again or some shit. That's what it feels like, of course. That's what it feels like. But, that's just like a bias thing because you're playing as the MC, right? You're playing as the MC, so it is what it is. And, it's really interesting to think about. But yeah, it's also kind of pathetic. Let's be real here. Come on, Hop. Like, come on. You can I mean, it's nice that, you want to become a Pokemon professor. But, really now? Come on. We beat your ass so bad that you want to become a Pokemon professor? Like, come on. Like, it's nice that you did that, but you can still come after me. And, speaking of that, yeah, let's talk about, like, the battles in particular. Earlier I talked about, like, gameplay loop and this and that. But let's talk about the battles more in depth. So, in terms of battling, in terms of difficulty, it's much easier, definitely. I mean, it's a new gen Pokemon game. And, there's a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of, safeguards. I mentioned earlier that Hop, whenever you're, like, battling against him, he's, what is it? He's, like, letting you, give you some time, right? He's giving you some time to think about stuff, or, letting you time to prepare before he tries to whoop your ass, but you end up whooping his ass, right? And, in terms of, like, that, yeah, it's very easy. It's not hard, it's not difficult. I did struggle a little bit, I would say around 7th, 8th gym? 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere around there. I did struggle a little bit, and, like, the championship and all that stuff. Like, the levels were starting to get ranked. They were going up. But, for the most part, I think it's fine. You know what I mean? The game is fine. It's easy. It's manageable. And that's all I want. Some people really want a difficult Pokemon game, and that's fair. That's really fair. But I sunk about 20 hours in this game, and honestly, for the longest time, right, when I was playing the game, I was, like, wondering, hey, is the game, like, are we, like, breezing through, like, these gyms fast, or am I having a lot of fun? And it's both, really. It's both for me, personally. Like, I was breezing through the gyms, but I was also having a lot of fun battling the gym leaders and, like, doing their fun gym missions and stuff. Like, the pacing, like, it goes super fast in the beginning, slows down in the middle, and then, there's, like, a lot of padding in the end. That's, like, my one criticism That is my one criticism. So it feels like there's a lot more shit at the end, but in the beginning, that doesn't feel like there's much. Like, you literally, like, what is it? I remember this specifically. But from Gym 5 to Gym 6, it's only one route. You know what I mean? And there's like plenty of gyms like that. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting in that regard. But yeah, the pacing is bad. I think they should pad out more of the early stuff, like add more routes between Gym 1, Gym 2. I like that they're giving us more progression, right? Like, okay, you progress in 5 minutes. Sure, whatever, right? And you got 3 gym badges. That's so cool. Some people might be happy with that, but other people, like for example Charlie, I'm pretty sure he must have felt pretty upset about that. But like, him, what is it? Progressing so fast, like, oh, this game's so easy. When in reality, if you just like, take some of that content in the ending and put some more of that crap in the beginning, right? Like, add some more stuff, add some more roots, add some more story, add some more dialogue in the middle and the beginning, because there really isn't much dialogue and there isn't really much lore. Like, they do set up stuff in the beginning and the middle parts of the story, but it doesn't get good until the end, right? The payoff doesn't get good until the very end of the post game. So the post game and the endings are really good, right? Like the end of the game and post game is really good, but the beginning and the middle, there isn't that much going on. There isn't much going on. You know what I mean? That's like the biggest criticism. It's just the pacing. The end, it's a bit much because they're trying to pad it out when really they could have just, make everything big and full. But like I said, like the only real highlights were the ending and the post game for me. And yeah, like, and the other stuff you breeze through the gyms pretty quickly. I mean, at least for me. I was like, just fucking sweeping through everybody just by swords dancing or dragon dancing, and then just wiping their asses and stuff. So I mean, it was fun. It was fun. Do I want a harder Pokemon game? I don't mind it, but for what it's worth, I got 20 hours worth of the game, and I bought the game for $30 off of somebody. So I mean, for the most part, I had a lot of fun, and you know what I mean? Like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. So I am okay with that. So yeah, I'm okay with that. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm okay with that. But yeah, going back to like, okay, character story, for example. We talked about Hop, right? Let's talk about the gym leaders. So some gym leaders, they get a lot of attention. Like, spoiler alert, of course, spoiler alert. Piers gets a lot of attention. Raihan, I think. Opal. What is it? I guess you could argue like Kabu, maybe. Like there's like some gym leaders that like, ooh, damn, like you really like the personality, and they show up, they play a lot of significance to the story. But there are other gym leaders that you want to see more. Like obviously, like Milo, like you beat his ass and you just never see him again. And Grody especially, like he's a flashy character, he's a flashy guy, and he's super cool and all that. But you rarely see him, like him and like Bea especially. I really want to see Bea. Like Bea is Bea, so hot. I love Bea, but we don't get to see him. We don't get to see much of them. You know what I mean? And that's kind of sad. Yeah, like, so I wish more gym leaders got more attention, like, instead of focusing on one or two. I know Piers, Opal, and, her disciple. And, the whole Mari situation, all this and that. Oh, speaking of, right, in this game, what I find really interesting is that you have multiple rivals. I know they started introducing this in Scarlet and Violet, which is pretty hype. But just know that Sword and Shield did this first, I would think. And instead of having one rival, you have three rivals. You have Hop, you have Bede, I think, Beede, Marnie. You know what I mean? So you have three rivals, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's a pretty cool concept. I like that. I think in terms of story, that makes it really interesting. Obviously, some characters you get to see more of, and others you don't get to see more of. So, obviously, the complaint is obviously, what is it? Why not give more time to everybody, right? But yeah, for the most part, I like that. I like that they introduced that, and the whole plot. Like I said, that's the whole pacing. The pacing, and that goes with the plot as well. It's just like nothing really happens. There's a lot of building up to in the background, and then is it to like the middle to the end, and then like the post game is where all the heavy story content is, which is a bit unfortunate. I really wish they had more. You know what I mean? I wish they had more. But then again, I suppose, like, Pokemon games, like, the story's always been middle bit, in the beginning, middle, you know, nothing much happens. You're just battling, getting your gym badges, and then middle end, and then finally post-game, doesn't really matter. But, I don't know. It's still a complaint regardless. So, yeah, there's that. Character designs, I really liked every single character. I have no complaints, honestly. This video is getting so fucking long, but it goes to show that there's a lot to talk about this game, and in a positive way, and of course, some negative things. But character designs, 100%. I love it. They're great. They're well designed. Granted, you know, you do see a lot of repeated NPCs, of course, but I think it's kind of, I think they do what is it? Acknowledge that, definitely. Like, there's like this part of the story where it's like acknowledged. They're like, oh my god, like this NPC looks like this NPC. How are we gonna find them? Blah 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 blah. And all the unique NPCs look unique. You know what I mean? Every single one of them look unique. So it's great. It's awesome. And obviously some characters I really like. I really like, yeah. And yeah, I really appreciate that. Sonya though. God damn. Yeah. In terms of the music, the soundtrack is really good too. I really enjoy the soundtrack. Really fun, really upbeat. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't think there's much to talk about character designs and you know, soundtrack, but all I can say is that they fit with the game and they're fun and there's not much to talk about, but just because there's much to talk about doesn't mean it's bad. In fact, it's really good. So, what are my final thoughts? My final thoughts is, overall, this game on its own is a really good game. But it being a Switch game, it could definitely be better. But I feel like that's not Game Freak's fault. It was always going to happen, and it just happened to be Sword and Shield, right? It just happened to be Sword and Shield. Like, Scarlet and Violet, it feels like a next-generation Pokemon game, right? Oh, open world, fully open world. You know what I mean? You don't have to... I mean, okay, you know, Sword and Shield implemented the whole, you know, you can see Pokemon thing outside the grass, and you technically don't need, what is that? You technically don't need repels anymore. And, you know, Arceus improved on that, and Scarlet and Violet did that. And I haven't played Scarlet and Violet, by the way. I'm just saying all this stuff because I see videos of it and I see trailers of it. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, so they're adding more of that stuff, right? So like more 3D shit, more like open world shit. So it's next generation. But Sword and Shield is kind of been stuck in the past, and for first generation, not first generation, but for like the first like I don't know, for like one of the first few Pokemon games on Switch, it's not a bad play, but definitely don't get your hopes. Definitely don't get your hopes up. That's all I'm gonna say. Definitely don't get your hopes up. And yeah, that's about it. My name's been Austin, and I've been your very wonderful host, and I'll see you guys in the next couple of days. Who knows what I'll cover. Bye!